Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health. And really, without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
Episode 15, Keith Chenoweth. Keith Chenoweth. We didn't mention him the last two.
I hate you. Oh my God. Yeah, welcome to episode 15 of Nerdery and Murdery.
I'm sick with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey of the Murdery. And over there running the show is Will. So,
want to say hi, Will?
Say hi. He waved.
Yeah, something.
It's better than we've gotten so far.
Yeah. Beats the finger.
Yeah. So we had our usual lunch and listened back to some stuff we recorded earlier today, and I have to say, back in episode 13, there's a very, very long laughing point, and I said iPods, and I was actually talking about AirPods, so just had to correct that real quick.
No probs. It was really funny.
That was hysterical to listen back to.
Yep.
I love the stabs on those episodes too. Those just tickled me silly.
You like that?
So our last episode of the day.
Yep.
I love it. I did check stats, and I love it. We've got people downloading, and it's
nice,
exciting. Hopefully people like it.
Yeah. Well, they're downloading all over the world, which is kind of odd, but
well, America and Europe. I mean, not all over the world yet, but yeah, we do have our Frankfurt listeners, and somewhere out there's an Ireland one. So haven't heard anything from them yet. But yeah, no, I mean it's very exciting to see. I'm so glad, like I said back in 13, that this was the day that we're recording was the actual release of episode 1.
Yes.
And I'm so excited it's live. These will come out weekly. From here on forward, they will release on just after midnight on Sundays. So you'll get your weekly taste of nerdery and murdery here going forward, and
nerdery and murdery
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and crack into it. So
into some nerdery.
Take over the nerdery side of things.
Well, thank you, sir. Today I'm going to talk about a theatrical subject. I'm going to talk about Tuna, Texas.
Okay.
There's a series of plays about this mythical little town in Texas that is called Tuna. Greater Tuna is the first in a series of 4 comedic plays, followed by Tuna Christmas, Red, White, and Tuna, and Tuna Does Vegas, each set in the fictional town of Tuna, the 3rd smallest town in the state.
So is Tuna, Texas, the original, is that the one where there's like a town fair or a town something and they're all getting together for...
Yes.
Okay, that's the one I've seen. That.
Yes.
I haven't seen any of the others, but I've seen Tuna, Texas. I actually saw it where you live at the little popcorn theater or whatever it's called. Yeah, I saw that there.
Yeah, okay. So originally, there's, I think, over 20 characters. They're played by 2 people. And they play all of the characters.
Except the play I saw, I think it had like 4 people.
Someone playing 2 women playing the women parts, 2 men playing the men parts. I've heard of a lot of people who do that.
I don't remember. It's been a couple of years now, a few years. I really don't remember if it was women playing women or the men did. But I could be wrong. But I think there was 4 people. I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, so the series was written by Jason Williams, Joe Sears, and Ed Howard. The plays are once an affectionate comment on small-town Southern life and attitudes, but also a withering satire of the same. So they make fun of small-town Texas. And anybody who's from here knows exactly what it do. These plays are hysterical to Texas folks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's right there in that wheelhouse, you know. Of the 4, Greater Tuna is the darkest tone as it follows the news of the death or possible murder of Judge Buckner. Mm-hmm. I don't think they ever say in the show, but yeah, it's alluded to that he was murdered. And again, it's usually 2 guys that play the entire cast of over 20 eccentric characters. I didn't list all the characters out.
Sure.
Petey Fisk is probably my favorite one. He's the guy that runs the local animal shelter.
Okay.
And he goes on the radio and starts with, let's talk about ducks.
Yeah, the radio announcer. He's funny.
Yeah, there's 2 guys who run a radio station that's the only media in Tuna.
Right.
And a lot of it centers around that. It's interesting because it's played by these 2 guys, Jason Williams and Joe Sears. And they did it for something like 30 years, just running around. It debuted in Austin in the fall of 1981, and it hit off-Broadway in 1982. I
didn't know it's made it all the way up to Broadway.
Yeah, I did Broadway in its first year.
Huh.
Yeah,
okay.
well, off-Broadway, and I think it actually did Broadway.
Off-Broadway. I guess I mean New York. I didn't know it went all the way up there.
Yeah, I think it actually hit Broadway in 2000. But, Broadway technically is only like 8 theaters.
Sure.
And anything other than those 8 theaters is considered off Broadway, even though it's probably on the same street. The No Name Players produced it in 2002, actually on Broadway. Now, Charles Dugan produced a national tour of Greater Tuna, A Tuna Christmas, Red, White, and Tuna for 26 years. And Jason Williams and Joe Sears both did that touring show for 26 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. You're talking probably 300 nights.
So do you know how common is that for the actual cast from Broadway to continue on the tour?
It never happens.
Okay, I was wondering because I know I saw Hamilton over in Dallas, and that was not the original cast or the one you could see on Disney Plus. It was the traveling players.
Yes.
So I was just curious.
In a lot of cases, the traveling shows, they'll have more than one cast. They'll have 2 traveling shows, basically circling the country or Europe or whatever. A good friend of mine was a stage manager for the Blue Man Group in Europe. They have nothing to do with the actual Blue Man Group. They do. They're the same production company, but it's not the same people.
Right. The actual Blue Man Group seems to be permanently stationed in Vegas at the Luxor.
Yes, but I mean, she did that. She like 10 years.
Yeah.
She's a teacher now up in Chicago, but yeah, she did that for a long time.
I'll say this though. I mean, just because I asked that question, I've been
DeDrew.
to
Nicole DeDrew. She dated Don for a while. Do you know that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But I've seen several traveling shows in Dallas. I saw Cats. Didn't like Cats at all.
I'm not a big fan of Andrew
I
Lloyd
didn't
Webber.
like Cats.
I don't like Andrew Lloyd Webber at all.
Yeah.
The
Well,
music's
some
okay,
some
but-
I do.
But I mean, if I want to listen to a Pink Floyd record, I'll listen to a Pink Floyd record.
Sure.
I mean,
But I saw Wicked. I saw Hamilton.
oh, Wicked's great.
I saw what else did I see over in Dallas? God, I can't remember now. But the traveling show, they do a really good job.
I would say in some cases the traveling shows are better because they get more ensconced to the material because they have to.
Sure.
And plus they're a little more regimented because we've got this time, we got to do this, we got to pack out and strike and get on the road to the next town, and so yeah, their business. That's a slog too, I would think.
Oh, I would imagine so.
Matter of fact, with the traveling, I want to say it was Red, White, and Tuna came through Casa Manana in 1991 or 1992, and I actually got paid to help tear it down. That was the most money I ever made in theater. Was tearing 2 days, basically taking down a set.
Right.
Because it was a union contract, even though I wasn't a union guy.
Right.
So according to the play's official website, by 1985, Greater Tuna was the most produced play in the United States. There are videotape performances of Greater Tuna. Norman Lear did one, but that's not available.
Yeah, I think they do a Tuna Christmas on TV every year now.
Yeah. Oh, and it's great. And that's Joe Sears and Jason Williams. I want to say the local, I think KERA does it, doesn't it? KERA?
That sounds right.
Yeah, our local PBS station.
Yeah.
Which again, we will do a show about just because our KERA is amazing.
Yeah.
So it started out, they were doing a satire about a fictional town, the 3rd smallest town in Texas, and the weird people there. I have a quote from Joe Sears. Honestly, it was nothing more than us doing some skits at a nightclub on 6th Street in Austin. We were doing these funny skits about the moral majority. We got kind of a reputation for being different, and we were getting some laughs. Greater Tuna just kind of grew out of that. The show was a huge bump when newsman Dan Rather saw it and started talking to people in New York about it. Because Dan Rather is a Texas guy. He was down in Austin. He saw it and thought, this is so funny. We need to bring this to everybody. Variety went down to this tiny little theater in Austin and gave him a review in 1981.
Wow.
That was something back then, And all of
especially age before the internet and news is spreading about it. That's pretty cool.
Oh, it was Dan Rather.
Yeah. I'm stupid.
Sears said, all of a sudden we had an agent with a William Morris agency. They went from doing this little bit, and I think they were working day jobs too when it happened. And then they moved it to New York. And it had a short stint on off Broadway, but then they started doing the touring shows, and that's what they did for years. They did several shows that played off the original Greater Tuna. And it was fun. We knew we were doing something. And Joe Sears, said he did not miss a performance for 32 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're kind of well known for their accurate portrayals of small town life in the South, with these two guys playing 20-something characters. Now, Joe Sears was diagnosed with COPD in 2012, so he left Austin and went back to Bartlesville, Oklahoma. He works with a little local theater up there now, mostly as a mentor and a teacher. Works with a lot of inexperienced actors in that area. Another quote by Sears: I've also been able to work on painting, something else that's always interested me. There seems to have been a rebirth in the arts among young people, so working with younger kids really puts me in my element. Now, Jason Williams, he went on a little while after Joe Sears retired, but he kind of retired to San Antonio, and he just did a production. As a matter of fact, he did one of the few live productions that was going on during the pandemic. It was called, Blood and Holly. It's about Christmas at his house growing up in Austin, Texas.
I didn't know anybody was doing live performances during the pandemic.
He did it down in San Antonio. Now,
Really?
they had to put them in table. Well, Cosmiano has been doing some stuff, but everybody's at tables, and they're all 6 feet apart. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard. But now...
Because Vegas shut down.
Yeah.
Their show... I just saw that Cirque shows are going to start back up again on July 1st.
Nice.
It's just everything shut.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Oh my God! Yeah, a
anybody
lot
was
of people
doing
got
live
put out of work.
Sure. Oh yeah.
For a year.
Across the entertainment industry, you had audiovisual people who were out of work that were doing conventions. You know, our friend Elizabeth was with an AV company, and she was out of work. That's the pandemic just killed a lot. I want to see everything come back, especially, that's the chosen field Miranda's gone into is entertainment engineering. And I really want to see it come back.
Yeah.
But the entertainment industry was hurt.
Yeah.
Real bad.
A lot of things. I'm really worried that there are some places that are going to die and we're just going to lose them. But I also think there's a possibility of a rebirth, sort of. So because we realize, I think now you and I realize how important they are, but I think the population as a whole is starting to realize how important live stuff is. Not because we haven't had it for a year.
Well, and it's more that I think people were taking it for granted. They didn't realize until they suddenly couldn't anymore. You can't go to a comedy show. You can't go to a concert. I've got the whole Motley Crue big show that was supposed to be this August. It's actually been pushed to 2022 now.
Oh, wow.
August 2022. And that's just the whole thing with people trying to get things back running.
Get it back
but comedy shows, concerts, live theater, the shows in Vegas, when they were gone and people couldn't go.
Exactly.
It is when people started realizing, wow, this actually was kind of important and miss it.
Kind of like bowling alleys and drive-ins. You notice when they found, when they were just about to die out, everybody was like, oh no, we love drive-ins and bowling alleys, and now they're coming back.
Right.
I'm hoping the same thing happens to live theater, and I'm hoping it happens to little theaters so most people can go see them, because some of these big theater productions, they're expensive to go see.
Oh, sure.
It's hard for people to get up and go.
The Dallas Summer Musicals is not cheap.
No, it's not. And honestly, it should be. Well, not cheap, but affordable. Because the production company's not getting any more or any less. The venue's not getting any more or any less. It's the ticketing holding companies. That's where all your charges are.
Yeah.
And I think they're taking advantage of, or have been taking advantage of people, but now, especially with the advent of the internet, their hold on that sort of thing is the grip is starting to loosen.
Well, and what I'm hoping, because I've never been to New York City, never been.
I've been to the airport. Idlewild Airport. It's Kennedy, but there's actually, as you're coming in, as you're landing, there are a couple of little buildings on the outside of by the runways that still say Idlewild on them, which is really cool.
But I would like to see a play on Broadway, but it's damn near cost prohibitive. I mean, the Hamilton tickets. Oh God,
how much were they? Just out of curiosity,
I think, and I could be wrong, I think the tickets started at $500. Started.
That's ridiculous.
And they went up from there. But that was Hamilton. That was Hamilton Broadway. So what I'm hoping, the point I was getting to,
Lin-Manuel Miranda's not making that money.
He made a crap ton.
I know he did. He did, but he's
play.
not making $500 a pop money. Neither is like the Schubert Theater. He's not making that money. It's those damn ticketing companies. That's who's making all the cash.
But what I'd like to see is exactly what they did with Hamilton. I'd love to see a major production company like Disney pick up these shows and show them on the streaming platform, because I loved watching Hamilton with the original cast. Loved it.
There's a lot. There's a street. You may have to go get it.
No, I'm not buying another.
It's called
streaming.
Broadway HD. Randy and Ashley have it. There's a British production called the Goes Wrong Show, which is basically about a live theater production that goes crazy, like Noises Off. And they do it for several episodes. It is so funny.
It's actual Broadway shows?
Yeah. They're live shows that they just basically tape. And they've also got some other stuff that has been around for a long time.
Well, one of the things before the
Black
pandemic...
and White Death of a Salesman that is... Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Really?
Yeah.
So before the pandemic, you were starting to see more of this, and I mean, if they can't do it to streaming, I loved that movie theaters were showing Broadway production shows, and you can go see one of those for I don't know, 10, 15, $20, whatever it is. So I'd like to see that, because I would like to experience Broadway.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Broadway plays.
Yeah.
There have been some phenomenal ones that have come out over the last few years. But I want to go to New York sometime, but I don't know that I could throw $500 down to go see a show.
Yeah. That's assuming you could get that ticket.
Yeah, because even the Hamilton ones, it was even hard to get it. So I liked before the pandemic. Of course, theaters have to come back.
Yeah.
But I would love to see that to where they have more Broadway shows shown in the theater, or go to streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll pay a little extra to see a major Broadway show that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I'd still like to see Book of Mormon.
Oh yeah.
Which was at the Dallas Summer Musical, and I didn't get a chance to see it. But a lot of those that I've listened to that I really got into when Miranda introduced me to a lot of that stuff, because she was just listening to the
cast recordings.
The cast recordings.
Yeah.
And we do that. I remember one Christmas road trip as we drove down south to the Valley. That's all we listened to all the way there and all the way back. And it's a 9-hour drive.
My friend Wookie had a mixtape with Guns N' Roses and the cast recordings of Dreamgirls.
Oh my God.
It was so weird.
Yeah,
but that's what we were into.
Sure. That's funny. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Actually, now I just want to talk about Greater Tuna. So you have seen this stuff, and of course the Christmas show.
I've never seen the Christmas show. Like I said, that one that I saw at the whatever that theater name
Popcorn
is.
Players.
Popcorn
Yeah,
Players.
it's right across the highway from my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Triangulate Ziggy now.
Okay. Yeah. Whoops. But it's a neighborhood, so.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever seen any of them.
Yeah. Well, the characters are sweet and kind of wonderful, and they're also kind of backward and funny, and that's what these guys were going for. They just wanted to show what small town Texas, and Joe Sears, it's small town Oklahoma, but he's right on the Red River anyway.
Right.
And nothing. No, he's not laughing. Is he laughing? Is he giggling?
No.
Okay. He's just looking at the waveforms. All right. Thought he was going to say something.
No. I'm just messing with him. Go on.
Okay. Fair enough. So yeah, they are not doing it now. The idea is they're going to come back. Now my friend David Coffey.
Hold on. What the fuck is wrong with you, Will?
He's just laughing now.
You're an idiot.
He's not talking to me.
No, I'm not. He's over there. He's over there. Look like a chipmunk. Just. What the hell? was wrong with you?
Wait, do it again.
Just look over, and that's what he's doing. He's bopping. Oh, God, I've killed Zig. I did it. I killed him. I've killed Zig. Oh, my God, I've done it.
Oh, okay.
I've done it. I said earlier in the day it was going to happen. Oh, gosh.
Death by laughter. That's how I want to go out, man.
Oh. Sorry I interrupted you.
No. I just basically wanted to talk about Tuna now. I'll give you all the information. So
Right, go ahead.
So yeah, it's all these really crazy characters. A little boy and his mama, who everybody calls Auntie, even though that's his mama. Petey Fisk, the guy that runs the SPCA. The two gentlemen who run the radio. They just broadcast all day, and it's all about high school football and,
Well, they have the broadcasts at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, if I recall right.
Well, and they do it. They'll
that
do
kind
like
of signals
spots.
the scene change.
Yeah, and then the people are listening to the radio throughout the day
Yeah.
because that's their only media.
Yeah.
Which is why that's... Sorry, I turned that up. I turned that up to listen earlier. Sorry. Oh,
That's
cool.
that's Zig's phone.
Yes, it's the 1970s Doctor Who
theme. Yeah.
Yes. You're welcome. But yeah, so it's in throughout the day they'll go back and like they're on the radio, but then it'll shift over to someone listening to the radio. And then they'll talk to the person who was just on the radio, so
Right.
it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's back and forth. And it's, again, two guys and a lot of costume changes. I mean, just amazing. If nothing else, if you can go see a production of this with two people, watch it just for the costume changes because it'll blow your mind how quickly they can go from these crazy old ladies with this giant hair to these old dudes.
If I'm right about the one that had 4, it was still amazing costume changes.
But it's still 20. It's still 4 people doing 25 characters.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's an incredible production to watch.
Yeah, I mean a lot of breakaway Velcro stuff.
Yes,
and a lot of wig mannequins in the back so they can grab wigs and put them on. Now I have heard that occasionally they will get in a production. They will get into a production where they will grab the wrong wig.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know who told me that? Joe Sears.
Huh.
Yeah, I remember. Because I was tearing that one production down. He was there. Him and Jason Williams both. I'm sorry, Jaston Williams.
Jaston.
Yeah. But yeah, and actually Joe Sears was a very congenial, nice man. Jason Williams was really he liked to be in his space when he was doing the characters, which I understand. I'm the same way.
Right.
But yeah, Joe Sears was like, nah, well, whatever. We're doing a show. I've done this before. I wrote this. Meh, I know it. Whatever. And he did. He put on a great production. But yeah, he would just hang out with us, talking to us.
That's cool.
Well, again, he's working with a bunch of young people anyway. So that's kind of his calling. And we were all young people back then. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it would be awesome to write, produce, do your own thing. And that's what you make your living doing. So I would do it for 30 years. I could do this for 30 years.
Yeah, I could do this for 30 years.
Yeah, easily.
Be perfectly happy.
Yeah.
How about you? Would you be perfectly happy, Will? Do this for 30 years? Would that make you happy?
He's doing the chipmunk face again.
No, he's flicking his tongue at me now.
No, it's his gum.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Popping gum.
Popping gum during my podcast.
Yeah.
Jerk.
No, I can't stop looking at him.
No.
Okay, sorry. This one's kind of breaking down.
Yeah, a little bit there.
Okay, so yeah, sort of in wrap it up. So if you guys can go out, you definitely should go to their website and check out some of the videos. You can get some of that stuff. Look it up on Amazon. Buy one. Watch it. It's really funny. If you're worried that they're unfairly treating people in small town Texas, they're not. It's pretty close to the mark. Because Jason Williams is from small town West Texas. Yeah. And Joe Sears is from small town Oklahoma on the Red River. So, yeah, that's small town Texas all the way around. And it's a fair portrayal. Mm-hmm. They're not picking on them, but, you know. there's also a lot of love there too.
Yeah.
And you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell it's like, okay, yeah, I make fun of these people, but I love these people because they are my people. And you feel that. You feel that when you're watching it. I will say this, that my friend David Coffey, who I've spoken about before, was doing some of the Joe Sears roles a few years ago. I'm hoping they get back to doing it again. I would like to see a production of this very, very soon. And I'm glad that other theaters can produce it now, because for a long time it was just those two guys. Now, granted, they were traveling all over the country, and especially all over Texas.
Yeah, I'd like to see the other episodes.
Yeah.
Because I did enjoy Greater Tuna.
Greater Tuna. Yeah, I actually like the red, white, and blue, red, white, and tuna. The second one better. That's the one I actually tore down. Because there's one of the people on the radio is a UFO guy. At the very end, an alien spaceship comes and picks him up.
Yeah.
And okay, so I was amazed because I looked at the set piece. That thing looks gigantic. Yeah, it's only 10 feet across. Hey.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's only 10 feet across, and it's made of plexiglass. I can pick it up by myself. So, kind of a view behind the curtain there. The ramp is heavier than the spaceship. So,
Right. That's cool.
I could say with authority.
With authority. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's about it. Other than go out and see live theater.
Yeah.
Go out and do it. You can do it now.
Yeah,
go get it.
Definitely, if it's out there, definitely go out and support live theater, because I agree with you. It's something we need. It's something we should have out there.
There's small theaters. There's community theaters in your community. Go see it. It's not that expensive. Yes, the Broadway stuff is expensive, but hopefully that stuff will start coming down.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that was my mom. Sorry, I'm just telling her recording right now. Call you later.
Right. Tell her I love her.
Had to stop down for that. Okay, so great. Thank you. Now we're to the murdery side of the show.
Murder.
Before I go into my sources and and what I'm covering itself, I want to give a forewarning. And I want everybody to listen to this very carefully.
Okay.
This is going to be a pretty gruesome story. I have to say, I haven't led you astray so far, so there's your warning.
Okay.
And you've had it.
Gruesome as in sad, gruesome as in gory.
Gory.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I know, but there are people out there that may not be able to take it. It's pretty gory.
Okay.
This one, I actually heard it for the first time on Parcast Cults, that I talked to you about Parcast, and listened to it on a road trip with Miranda, and it was one that we actually had to shut off for a little while.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty graphic. So yeah, I originally heard it on Parcast Cults. I've got more information on the Dark Histories podcast. Got some more information on Wikipedia. Cult Nation, that's with a V for the U.
Okay.
Cultnation.com and Toronto.com. So this is the story of the Anthill Kids. So I've been wanting to tell this for a while because I've been wanting to do an episode over a cult for a while, and that's what this is. This is a cult we're going to cover.
Did you say the Anthill Kids?
The Anthill Kids.
Okay.
A-N-T Hill Kids.
Okay.
Anthill Kids. So we start off with Rock Therault, and it's Theriault. Therault. We'll call him from Quebec.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're just going to call him Rock. It's either Rock or it's Roche. I'm not really sure. It's R-O-C-H, so it could be Roche. So forgive me if it's Roche. I'm going to say Rock the whole time. So Rock was born on May 16th, 1947 in Saguenay, Quebec, to Hyacinth and Pierrette Rock, and raised in the Thetford mines near Quebec. They were a very devoutly religious family, member of the Pilgrims of St. Michael. And this was a religious organization that pulled the ideology of a type of profit-sharing consumerism. They would deliver their messages via the Journal, which was a pamphlet delivered door to door by members of the church, and Rock would be dragged around the city by his parents, spreading the word of the church. This would get him a lot of grief from other children, a lot of teasing, because people are like, oh, there's the kid who goes around with his parents and they're preaching the word of God and they're handing out these pamphlets. So a lot of teasing. And so he really kind of grew to despise the church and organized religion in general.
Yeah.
He was considered very, very intelligent as a child, but he dropped out of school in the 7th grade and began teaching himself the Old Testament.
Okay.
Found that interesting since he kind of despised organized religion, but he went to the Old Testament. Later, Roque would complain that his parents were drunks, beat him, and at one point pushed him down the stairs. He once wrote in a letter, quote, I am from a family in which I was mistreated and beaten worse than a dog from the age of 2 until 14, when my father, having beaten me, threw me out of the house and told me never to set foot in it again. Friends of the family do not remember such behavior, and his father later said, I never beat the boy, but I punished him when he needed it.
Yeah.
So, who knows with that. Rock or Roche, I don't know. I feel weird saying Rock when I think it may be Roche.
Wouldn't Roche have an E on the end of it?
Maybe. I don't know. I should have looked that up. Roche also said he was born from an incestuous relationship, but there's no evidence for that. So saying his parents, were incestuous. He came to believe the end of the world was near and would be brought on by the war between good and evil.
Okay.
Okay. So this gets you to where you find a lot of cult leaders is they're preaching the apocalypse is coming. And, this is how they get a lot of people to follow them.
Yeah. Hey, we're all going to die.
Exactly. We're all going to die. Follow me because in a lot of these cases with cults, because God told me, if you follow me to here, you follow me to this, you will be saved from the apocalypse. That's very, very important with cult leaders.
Yeah, I'm your only link to God. Basically.
That's sometimes what they do. On November 11th, 1967, Roche married 17-year-old Francine Grenier, who was from a neighboring town. They moved to Montreal in the early days of their marriage, and Francine gave birth to 2 sons, Roche Sylvain in 1969 and Francois in 1971. Francois. In 1971, Roche began visiting a doctor about stomach ulcers he had developed. He had surgery to have them removed, but it left him with dumping syndrome. Do you not know what that is? So dumping syndrome is it has to do with the intestines and whatnot. You have a lot of problems with your bowels. It causes constant abdominal pains, constant cramps. It's pretty bad. Dumping syndrome is pretty bad. He was prescribed meds, but he threw them away and began medicating himself with alcohol.
Oh, okay.
As you will.
There you go. Yep, as you do.
Roche became obsessed with medicine and anatomy and constantly complained he was dying, which he wasn't.
Yeah.
He lost his job and the family moved back to the Thetford Mines, where Roche took up woodworking and started selling small sculptures and household items. So kind of a meager existence. He was drinking heavily and was visiting Quebec City on the weekends by 1976, using his woodworking sales as an excuse to pick up women and have affairs. The woodworking business was failing, and Francine had enough of. Actually, not was it Francine? Did I get that wrong? Yeah, Francine. Sorry, I had to look back. Francine had enough of Roche, so she left him. Roche was now bankrupt and without a job, and he began living between his car and a woman from Quebec he'd been having an affair with named Giselle. Roche then became interested in the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay.
Realizing he needed help. He needed help because of his drinking.
They're real big down here, right? In Burleson?
Yeah, there's a big church, I think, south of Burleson.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're real big down here.
He converted to Seventh-day Adventist and began practicing their holistic beliefs, which encouraged a healthy lifestyle free of unhealthy foods and tobacco. They also allowed no alcohol or drugs. So he quickly quit smoking and drinking and met every Saturday in a motel to hear Pastor Pierre Zita preach on the second coming of Christ and the importance of conservative living. Despite hating his parents, going door to door, giving out the journal, like I said before, Roche now began selling Adventist literature door to door. I thought that was kind of interesting. But with his enthusiasm for the doctrine of the church, and he was extremely charismatic, he excelled. Charisma is another thing with cult leaders.
Yes.
You'll find that most of your cult leaders are very, very, people are attracted to them. And a lot of it is because these cult leaders figure out very quickly how to prey on weakness. They prey on weakness and they lift you up, making you believe you're meant for something better. So that's where they, really kind of get them. In early 77, Pierre noted Roche's talent and social skills, and he put him in charge of a program to help followers of the church quit smoking.
Okay.
Roche embraced this role and attracted a small local following of devout stragglers who were young people disillusioned or suffering grief in one way or another. Again, you have your weak people, the people who are down.
And young.
And impressionable. Absolutely. It was here that he met 21-year-old Solange Boillard, 19-year-old Chantal Labrie, 18-year-old Francine Laflamme, 20-year-old Nicole Ruel, 18-year-old Maurice, no last name there, 24-year-old Claude Ouellette, 24-year-old Jose Pelletier, and husband and wife Jacques Guiguer and Mace Grenier, both 24 and 23 years old. I listed them out because they all become players. Okay. These names will come back.
Okay.
The group met on weekends, staying in Giselle's apartment. Remember, this was the woman that Roche was living with, while Roche gave lengthy sermons about the imminent second coming of Christ. Roche convinced Giselle to convert to the Adventists and convinced the group studying at college to drop out, since there was no point in education with the end of the world so near. This was Roche's first steps in isolating the group from outsiders. He was starting to try to get them away.
That's another thing that they do.
Yes, they do. They weed them away from the groups that they're in, and they isolate them, and they get them to where they're reliant only on each other. They're reliant on the head of their church. They're reliant on the people in their cult, the people in their cult. They get very extremely reliant on each other. During the summer of 77, Roche took the group on a retreat to the banks of Lake Rousseau, Ontario, where he met Gabrielle Lavallee and Yolande Gunnebert, who quickly fell in with the group, and Roche was happy to bring them on board. During a hike while on the retreat, Roche reached a rocky outcrop that was looking out over the landscape, and he claimed to have a vision. He said that the sky lit up bright white, and the voice of God spoke to him, pointing out that the outcrop was a holy place.
Okay.
In October of 77, Roche encouraged his group to quit their jobs and leave their families to move to Sainte Marie in the Beauce region, south of Quebec. There they rented a 2-story house altogether and opened the Healthy Living Clinic. This was a place where they sold alternative medicines, using their connections with the Adventists to sell organic food and holistic literature.
Okay.
This is another thing that he did for quite a while, is he kept his connection to the Adventist church because that gave him credibility. That made his followers want to stay with him.
Oh, he's with the Seventh-day Adventist.
Right. However, this is where he kind of started singling them out again. He started to make them wear uniforms. There were green ankle-length tunics for the women and beige tunics for the men, while Roche himself wore a dark brown tunic as the leader to ensure he was set apart for the rest.
Oh, of course.
You'll see this with a lot of cult leaders as well, is they want to have their place above. They want to have their throne above or whatever, because they do see themselves as the head of their family, the head of their cult. But a lot of times their ego is really what makes it to where they have to be different from everybody else. Their clinic was doing really well, making money, and they were attracting more followers. One of them, Leo Mark Foucher, joined quickly and sold all of his possessions to fund the clinic. Jacques and Maurice, that we talked about earlier, followed suit. So now we've got people that are selling everything they own to come live with the cult under very meager existences. Giselle was becoming very jealous of watching Roche surrounded by young women every day. So she proposed marriage to him, and they married on January 8th, 1978 at an Adventist church in Montreal. In March 1978, a man named Auclair fell in with the group. His wife, Geraldine, was suffering from leukemia and undergoing treatment in a hospital in Quebec.
Okay.
Roche fought with the doctors on their treatment, and he had an issue with the amount of drugs they were giving her.
Yeah.
So he convinced Auclair to check Geraldine out of the hospital and have her moved to the clinic instead for treatment. Roche prescribed a treatment of grape juice and organic foods for leukemia. She died soon after.
I'll bet she did.
But Roche told his followers he had brought her back to life momentarily by kissing her. He then told them, when God wants people, he takes them. It was Geraldine's time. He then met the parents of 19-year-old Gabrielle Nadeau, who was suffering from multiple sclerosis, and they checked their daughter into the clinic to undergo Roche's quote-unquote treatment. Yeah. By spring of 1978, the Adventists were kind of tired of hearing about the news coming from the clinic.
Yeah.
They were starting to get a little concerned of their association.
Man, this is going to make us look bad.
Yeah. And so Pierre, the pastor from the Adventist church he was following, began meeting with the parents of Roche's followers, trying to persuade them to bring their children home. He even tried once to get Giselle to leave Roche. By April, Roche was expelled from the Adventist church, and he then began marrying his followers together. He paired Claude with Solange and Jacques with Nicole, despite the fact that they really didn't care for each other. But Roche now decided who was getting married to who.
Yeah. Almost like a eugenics program.
Yeah. Business began going south for the clinic, and Roche abandoned it in July 1978, when he moved the group to the small village of Fleury Saint Laurent. On July 6th, he began Fleury Saint Laurent.
So I'm assuming it's on the St. Lawrence River.
Possibly.
Okay.
Saint Laurent.
Laurent.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe. Again, geography is not my strong suit.
Okay. I'm just
On July 6th, he began fearing the end of the world was near, and he claimed God had warned him it would come on February 17th, 1979. How many of these cult leaders have you heard this, that they've got a date that the world's going to end?
This day.
Who was it? The Moonies? They had a date.
The Comet people.
What was the name? The people that all killed themselves.
The Comet people.
Yeah. What's the name of them?
Oh my God.
I can't remember, but he had a date too. You see this.
It was when the Hale Bob comic came around. That's when they all killed themselves.
Roche told his followers that a storm of boulder-sized hail would fall from the sky. There would be earthquakes and huge lightning storms, and they were to become God's chosen people.
In February of 1979, huh? February of 1979. Boulder-sized hail? Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I want to say February 1979. Yeah, I think I'll probably just play it in the snow. If we had snow that year.
A few days later, on July 9th, 1978, in preparation for the end of the world, he moved his commune by hiking to a mountainside he called Eternal Mountain. This was in St. Jogues, where he claimed all would be saved. He made the commune build their own town while he just watched and relaxed. He just kind of kicked back while they toiled, and they toiled hard.
They built a town.
And
you're talking, what, 20 people at this point?
I think there were quite a bit more than that at this point. They built a tent town and began construction on a large communal wood cabin. Roche now changed their uniforms to dark blue wraps. And drove them like slaves. They worked 17 hours a day
to
build the cabin and build a well. and along with lack of sleep, Roche also rationed their food. The group learned not to complain as any complaints were met with further restrictions on their food.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's starving them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
By September, the cabin was finished, which Roche claimed as a miracle, and gave them all new biblical names. This was fun. It was here he took the name of Moses.
Really?
Yes, he took the name of Moses, but most affectionately called his pappy. He was most affectionately called Pappy, and his wife Giselle Mammy.
Pappy and Mammy.
Pappy and Mammy, but he was Moses. In order to keep the commune members devoted and expand the community, he then dissolved all marriages within the group except his own, and he married all the women.
Well, of course he did.
Isn't
that what they do?
So he now had 9 wives. So I think you're right. I think it was about 20 because he had 9 wives at this point.
Okay.
And so the husbands that went with. So yeah, you have good math.
Thank you.
Later that evening, Nicole confessed to Giselle that Nicole had slept with Roche while they were building the cabin. Mm-hmm. And Giselle had then had enough and she ran off into the woods.
Okay.
Roche did chase her down, choked her, and demand she return, which she did. Roche would end up impregnating all of the women, fathering over 20 children with his 9 wives.
Wow. Boy, he was he was trying to start his own Canadian football team there.
Yeah. The group was struggling financially by this point, and so he started prostituting Gabrielle, to a local grocery to supply them with food.
What?
Yeah. Well, he prostituted out Gabrielle to this grocer so that in return, they gave him food.
I know. I heard that. I'm just, what was, okay, so he's supposed to be a religious leader and he's tricking out one of his followers who he is also married to.
Well, but it's basically his own religion now.
Yeah.
Here he started drinking again.
Okay.
And he would give sermons at the head of the cabin, giving very long, drunken sermons.
All right.
Here we go. If anyone fell asleep or complained, he would beat them with a 4-inch club or punch them in the torso. He did this to a pregnant Maurice, once breaking 2 of her ribs when she ate more than her share of breakfast. If anyone made him mad, he made them stand naked outside, whether it was sun, rain, or snow.
And this is in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Strange thing, though, his followers' devotion just didn't falter. It didn't waver at all. Francine once wrote a letter to Roche, and I've got the letter here. It's a quote, and it's I've got a couple of these, and they become very sad. This one says, "Hello, Pappy. I am writing about what you said on the subject of nutrition. It is very true that I nibble, a damnable fault which I will never again repeat. The thought of ingesting such a large quantity of food in so little time discourages me, even if I work outside the entire day without eating. I ask that you forgive me. If it is stealing, I did not realize it. It is this fault which causes my plumpness. I do not want to be a fat and plump servant. That is too ugly next to the man you are. I don't know what to think about everything and the meaning of my actions. I only know that I will not repeat them, and I don't speak lightly. I wish to be a true servant to you, my master alert, vigorous, with a clear and lively spirit, and well-balanced to serve you every moment of my life. I have a long way to go. Thank you, Pappy. I love you."
Okay.
Right. I mean, this is how much they have just that Roche has just lack of a better term, stolen their souls.
Yeah.
And he has them convinced that he is the greatest.
Yeah. And you know, without demonstrating that he is. That's the thing that I guess I just don't get it. Maybe that's just me. I just don't get it.
No, I'm with you. And that's,
I get the idea of a spiritual connection to the universe. I understand that. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to do it, I get that. But I don't understand this. And I have yet to meet anyone who can explain it to me in such a way where I would understand it.
right. And that's exactly how I feel every time I listen to a podcast or read about a cult. Is I listen to them. This right here. This is where my fascination with wanting to do a podcast started. Was cults. Because I do not understand the concept. I don't understand. I guess because
I'm assuming you can understand it intellectually because I can understand it intellectually. Yes. But how?
Right. No, I'm right there with you. I understand the why, but I just don't understand how somebody could be that far gone within themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one to fathom. And without actually being in their shoes, it's hard for me to say that because it could be the fact that these people were just so low at their point in lives, and when they were young and impressionable, that the cult leader just lifts them up so much.
He gave them something.
He gave them hope. He gave them a sense of purpose. And by the time things start turning, they're so deeply in love with their leader that they just can't turn away. And that's
almost like an abused spouse.
That's absolutely what it is. Just like an abused spouse.
Okay.
So in February 1979, in case you're unaware, the world did not end.
Yes.
Right.
I believe I was in kindergarten at the time.
Well, but his followers actually began questioning him. At this point, they began questioning his religion, his wisdom.
Yeah, it's February. It's 79. What happened?
But he defended himself, saying that time on earth and God's time were not parallel, so it was a miscalculation. We've heard this one before from people too. Who is the local pastor, the local minister that said when the world was going to end, and he said it was a miscalculation? We had one here.
Oh my God!
It wasn't James Baker, was it? Was it Jim Baker? No. Who was
Was it Robert Tilton?
It could have been. I don't remember.
Robert Tilton was great, man.
We had a local one here. Yeah, we had a local one here who claimed they knew when the world was going to end, and it didn't.
Yeah, so it was like in the 80s.
So he claimed that it was a miscalculation, but he assured them that the end of days were assuredly coming. So they kept following him. In April of 79, Maurice talked to her husband about wanting to leave the commune. So Roche ordered her husband, Jacques, to cut off one of her toes with an axe as a punishment, which he did. Yeah, things are going to go real bad from here. By 1980, there were nearly 40 members of his commune. In 84, the group moved from Quebec to a new site near Burnt River, Ontario, which was a hamlet in central Ontario, which is now the city of Kawartha Lakes.
Okay.
And in May of 1984, a new cabin began construction.
Ontario? Yeah, Kawartha Lakes. I think that's basically where Letterkenny's supposed to take place.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere in Ontario.
That's funny.
Yeah.
He also, at this point, established a hierarchy amongst his wives.
Oh, okay.
Maurice, the one who got her toe cut off, was at the bottom.
Of course.
And she was at the bottom of the pile because she had never given fully to the group and only went along for her husband's sake. He once forbade Jacques from sleeping with his wife and cast her out into a separate hut. And then he encouraged Jacques to beat her and convince the group that a birthmark she had resembled the mark of the devil. So he's treating her like shit now.
Well, yeah, because she's pointing out the inconsistencies in his message. She's got to be silenced.
At this point, they began selling fruit and pastries by the roadside, and Roche established them as a company, naming them the Anthill Kids because they worked together like a nest of ants.
Okay.
Roche began becoming less of a motivational leader and began heavily drinking again. He became increasingly totalitarian over the followers' lives and very irrational in his beliefs. So members were not allowed to speak to each other when he was not present, nor they were allowed to have sex without his permission. He continued his use of his charisma, though, to cover for this increasingly abusive behavior, and no members questioned his judgment or blamed him for any mental, physical, or emotional damage that he was causing.
At this point, One could say that someone could call the police. Okay, he's already cut a lady's a little toe off. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? He's telling them they can't speak to each other, telling them what they can wear, what they. Somebody could call the police.
The police get called.
Okay, thank you.
We're not far from there.
Okay.
He began punishing members that he considered to be straying by spying on them and telling them God told him what they did. So this is again trying to prove he's divine. His tirades did spiral into violence. He made the women nude wrestle. He made the men stand in the center of a circle of women while they punched and kicked the women. And Roche routinely punched and whipped them, hit them with hammers, and urinated on them.
Yeah.
If someone decided they wanted to leave the cult, Roche would hit them with a belt or hammer, suspend them from the ceiling, pluck each of their body hairs individually, or even, brace for this one, defecate on them.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Mothers were given a chance to leave the commune, but most did not. Most were said to be scared of Roche. They were afraid he would haunt their dreams and come after them and kill them.
Oh, wow. So now adoration has turned to fear.
After each bout of... Dog just hit my mic. After each bout of violence, Roche would cry and beg God to stop using him as a tool to implement the Lords of Justice. This is where I have my next letter, and this comes from Solange to really show just how effective this was to his followers. And it says, "Good day, Moses, my master. I would have liked to talk to you yesterday evening, but I think it is preferable to write these things down rather than saying them for fear of talking too much. I am going to talk to you about the last fit of anger that your master exercised through you. I really believe that what you did doesn't come from you, but from someone much higher. From my part, I really believe that you were possessed by a very powerful spirit. That's what I saw in what you did. The throwing of the knife, the rifle shot, the harm done to Mammy. My eyes saw things that went beyond them. My body is very afraid of all these things. I understand it very well because the law of death in which it exists, but within myself I am well. I am very well and very happy to belong to a real master who himself belongs to the only master of life. Love, Rachel."
Sounds like she witnessed a murder.
It definitely witnessed something bad. But I mean, you see through this letter here as well. Now she thinks that God is doing this, or a spirit is doing this. It's really not him, and they still want to keep following him because they believe that he is doing, doing the work of God. Over time, these punishments became even more extreme or violence. Once again, I'm going to forewarn what's coming up.
Okay.
Roche would make members break their own legs with sledgehammers, sit on lit stoves, shoot each other in the shoulders, and eat dead mice and feces. Sometimes a follower would be asked to cut off another follower's toes with wire cutters to prove their loyalty. He would cut off legs and arms without warning.
Cut off legs and arms?
He made them sit naked in the cold while he whipped and beat them. The children were sexually abused, held over fires, or nailed to trees while other children threw stones at them. Once one of Roche's wives left a newborn child outside to die in the freezing temperatures just to keep the child from the abuse.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Roche then began claiming himself a holy being and started performing unnecessary amateur surgeries on sick members to demonstrate his healing powers. This included injecting a 94% ethanol solution into stomachs or performing circumcisions on children and adults in the group. I forewarned you.
I'm sorry, this is not audible.
Right. Yeah, I'm just you can't see what I see is just the stark horror here.
Okay.
In 1987, social workers removed 17 children from the commune. but Roche faced no charges from his abuse.
Why?
Well, so okay, we're the kids in the outside world. They told people of the horrific violence and abuse against them, carried out by Roche, including depriving them of sleep, food, and education. They told of blood sacrifices held by Roche in front of them, killing a goat and smearing himself in its blood, as well as sexual abuse. So the courts ordered an independent assessment of the anthill kids.
Okay.
Dr. Real Hunault and Dr. Martine Milkovic, I don't know, visited the commune. Roche greeted them with his most charming smile.
Of course he did.
The final report actually championed Roche as an alternate living pioneer, accused the government of persecution against the French-speaking population, and suggested the children were to be returned immediately.
Okay, I know what this is. All right, so I don't want to denigrate any of our listeners in the fair North, but there's definitely a Quebec backlash towards English speaking folks, and it's the idea is that not we, but Canadians, English speaking Canadians are holding them down and have been for years. And I get it, there probably is something to that, but this sounds like this may have been kind of caught up in that sort of fervor.
Yeah,
like Quebecois. That was a group of militant, we need to leave Canada, Frenchy French folks. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I appreciate that. Thankfully, the courts received that recommendation.
Thank God.
Yes. Roche's violence would now grow worse. He now took to acts of ceaseless barbarity. And dog hit the microphone again.
Yeah, that's all right.
Jacques had his ribs broken with an axe. Nicole's stomach and Josie's back were burnt with a blowtorch.
Oh, my God.
He beat a 3-month pregnant Nicole, causing her to miscarry, and then shot her in the shoulder with a rifle. He broke Giselle's ribs with a pair of steel-toed boots. He sliced Claude's arms open with shards of glass, pulled 11 of his teeth with a pair of pliers, and had one of his wives break Claude's legs with a sledgehammer. He eventually ordered Claude to wrap a rubber band around his testicles, and when this caused obvious side effects, he castrated him, cauterizing the wound with a hot piece of iron.
Oh, my God.
And then once he tossed a hunting knife into Giselle's leg.
Just threw it at her.
Yeah. So I'm not laughing because I find this is humorous. Trust me.
It's nervous laughter.
It is very nervous laughter. In 1989, Roche performed surgery without anesthesia on Solange when she complained of an upset stomach. This gets hard. He laid her naked on a table, punched her in the stomach, and then forced a plastic tube into her rectum to perform a crude enema with molasses and olive oil. He then cut her abdomen open with a knife and ripped out part of her intestines with his bare hands. He made another member, Gabrielle, the woman he was prostituting out, stitch up Solange using needle and thread, and then had other women shove a tube down Solange's throat and then blow through it. He then declared Solange cured.
And she died.
She died the next day.
Of course she did.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she lived that long.
Yeah, no, she died the next day. Roche claimed he had the power of resurrection, so he bore... Okay, hold on. Let me get into this one here. Roche had claimed he had the power of resurrection, so he bore a hole into Solange's skull with a drill and made other male members, along with himself, ejaculate into the cavity. I know.
And she's a corpse at this point.
She is. Solange, of course, did not return to life.
Oh, no.
And her corpse was buried a short distance from the commune.
Of course it was.
However, he had Solange exhumed at one point and took one of her ribs, which he wrapped in a sheath of leather and kept on his person from then on, and the group burnt their remains. Roche filled a small jar with the ashes, mixed it with olive oil, and masturbated into the jar at times to ensure the rebirth of Solange was on track. This guy's gone
He's
banana hammock crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
He did long time ago, but I mean, this was the one I was just like...
Yeah, yeah.
This was the point when Miranda and I were listening, when I heard this. That's when we both went, we need to turn this off for a little while.
Yeah, let's get to... This sounds like you need to listen to some nerdery there for a while.
Right. Well, I mean, we were driving in the dark at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's get something else on.
So, actually some of the weirder characters in the Mad Max films now make a little more sense. I mean...
So going back to Gabrielle for a minute, she received very, very harsh treatment from Roche in the late 80s.
Okay.
Roche burned her genitals with a welding torch. He broke a hypodermic needle into her back and forcibly removed 8 of her teeth. She attempted to escape the commune after Roche cut parts of her breasts and smashed her head with the blunt side of an axe. But she returned, and Roche removed one of her fingers with wire cutters, pinned her hand to a wooden table with a hunting knife, and then used I had a note here. One site said chainsaw, the other said it was a meat cleaver. Used one of the two to amputate her arm.
Huh.
Gabrielle fled the commune again in August 1989 and contacted authorities.
So they've already So they took the kids away in 89, right? Was that
no, I think it was 87.
Okay. So they
87.
took all the kids away, haven't brought the kids back. Why aren't they investigating? Okay, so he's already he's clearly murdered. He's committed multiple acts of aggression and assault. And again, I'm not familiar with Canadian law, but he murdered someone.
Right.
Well, then again, maybe nobody outside knows that she's dead.
Correct. They're living in the commune. They're keeping everything internal. It did say that provincial authorities had long held suspicions about the cult due to the primitive living condition of its members, but because the commune was officially registered as a church, officials were legally unable to investigate the adults and could only ensure the welfare of the children. There you go.
This is how sexual predators escape into religious orders.
Oh yeah.
This is how they do it.
Absolutely.
This is why. Okay, and I'm probably going to be chastised for this. This is why you cannot trust religious leaders. You cannot trust them.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but there are definitely some you can't.
Well, okay.
There are absolutely
but the thing is,
definitely some you can't.
You don't know which ones are and which ones are not, which is why you can't trust them, particularly with your children.
Like I said, we're going to differ there because I don't think that about all of them. I definitely think there are ones that go to extremes. And we've seen that. We've seen that, the ones that go to extremes. This is one of them, and a lot of cults are that way. It's more of when people really give up their whole lives and their whole being. That's when you got to be really, really concerned about that particular leader. They're asking to give up their families. They're asking to give up their jobs, the places they live. That's the ones where you're riding the ragged edge. You're riding the disaster there. Where was I? Provincial authorities had long held suspicions about the cult due to the primitive living of the conditions. I'd mentioned, here we go, of the church. They could only ensure the welfare of the children. That's what I went through.
Yeah.
So police went to the commune only to find that all the Anthill kids had fled, either to Quebec or their families. Roche was caught on October 6th, 1989. And on the same day, Giselle told police about Solange's death.
Okay.
Roche was arrested for aggravated assault against Gabrielle and was found guilty and sentenced to 12 years of imprisonment. 12. Most of his followers abandoned him after the arrest. However, he fathered another 4 children from conjugal visits from Francine, Nicole, and Chantal.
Why?
they kept following him. I read somewhere that they would sit outside the jail for any chance to get inside to see him.
Oh, wow.
Gabrielle's report did allow further investigation into Roche and exposed the wider abuses at the commune and Solange's murder. In 1993, Roche pleaded guilty to second-degree murder for the death of Solange and was sentenced to life in prison. He was sent to Dorchester Penitentiary, which was a medium-security prison in New Brunswick, in 2000. In 2002, Roche applied for parole but was rejected as he was considered a high risk to reoffend. He never applied again. In 2009, Roche made headlines again when he tried selling his artwork to murderauction.com, which is apparently a site. It's a
They
site
have
which
Gacy's paintings and stuff. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it's called a true crime auction house.
Yeah.
And they were actually willing to sell some of Roche's drawings and poetry. However, the Correctional Service of Canada prevented it and said, no, his works don't leave prison.
Yeah. Nope.
On February 26, 2011, the 63-year-old Roche was found dead near his cell. His death is attributed to an altercation with his cellmate, Matthew Gerard MacDonald, who was a 60-year-old convicted murderer from Poraport, Newfoundland.
Okay.
MacDonald was already serving a life sentence on a previous murder charge and was sentenced to a second life sentence after pleading guilty to the second-degree murder of Roche.
Oh, well. Yeah, I killed him. I hate this guy.
Well, so MacDonald stabbed Roche in the neck with a shiv, walked to the guard station, handed them the weapon, and said, "That piece of shit is down on the range. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up." And that is the story of the Anthill Kids.
Wow. I'm sorry. I got a little emotionally involved in that one.
It's hard not to. It's hard not to with it's hard not to with a cult, because you feel sorry for these people who got caught up in it.
Yeah.
You feel sorry for these people that they are willing to endure that kind of abuse because they believe this person is, they either believe that they are directly in touch with God, or they believe that it's God himself. And in many of these cults, they believe that their leader is God himself. And so it's hard to not be emotionally involved with these people, because it's absolutely terrible atrocities that a lot of them go through. And this is not an uncommon thing where a cult leader not only brings people in and physically, emotionally, and sexually abuses them, but kills people within the cult.
Yeah.
Because he or she just get pissed off.
And they have a godlike power over these people. And they, it may be not even they're necessarily pissed off. They just want to exercise some of that godlike power.
Right.
And I know a lot of people think I'm anti-religious. I'm not. I just do not trust people of the cloth. I never have. I probably never will. Now, I don't say I don't trust them not to, necessarily lie to me, but I would never let my kids go off with any of them, ever.
And like I said, that's where we differ, because I've known some that I would trust my life with. My old youth minister from Wedgwood Baptist. I'm still in touch with his wife to this day. He doesn't really go on Facebook himself, but his wife is, and so I follow them.
Good person.
Oh, absolutely. There's not a question I would leave a child with him. Not a question at all. At Shelley's church, the pastor there and
shout out Shelley.
Yes, my sister, the pastor there and his wife, they're great with kids. I would absolutely leave them with kids. I think you just have to be.
Imagine Geoffrey is a hot chick. That's Shelley.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was for Shelley.
I just think you have to be very careful. I think you absolutely have to be very careful, and I understand that it could be hard sometimes, because obviously these people at some point just thought they were,
they could do whatever they wanted to.
They could do whatever they wanted to, or they're following somebody who's good who ends up being bad. So I understand your point. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand your point. It's hard. Yeah. I think it is very hard, especially when you hear things like this. So, This is another one that, I'm relatively certain people were going to have a good old time listening to Greater Tuna.
Yeah, how
and
about
then
Tuna?
I turn around and go, yeah, you like that? How about this? Let me just slap you back into reality for a little while.
Let me talk to you about this French Canadian dude who's just a piece of crap who got shanked by his celly.
Right. I that's why I'm going to be very curious when people start commenting to hear both sides of it, because I guarantee there are going to be people that are going to say, God, I really love that murdery side. Fuck, Geoffrey's dark. And then there's going to be the other people that are like, God, I really like that dark shit. What the hell is Zig talking about? I
don't want to listen to this. This is terrible.
So I think we're going to have both camps out there, and I'm sure we're going to have others that like both. We'll see as we go.
I'm actually kind of excited about that, because I was thinking the same thing. Is like, we're going to have people who are really, really into the nerdery, and we're going to have people who are really, really into the murdery, and won't listen to the other half of the show.
Right. Fast forward or backtrack, whichever way they've got to go. So that takes us to the end of another recording week. As normal, you can find us on our website, nerderyandmurdery.com. There's our contact information on there. We really do hope that you reach out and talk to us.
Yes.
You can find our Patreon there if you wish to support us.
Yes.
You can find our social media there as well. And then we are on the most of your major podcast platforms, and you can find our episodes on our website as well.
Yes, nerderyandmurdery.com.
Yep. And so with that,
I've been Zig with your nerdery.
And I've been Geoffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.